Whisperers, man. They can hear you. All right, well, to be fair, this episode didn't really focus on the Whisperers, which is one of my complaints, I guess. It seems like the mid-season finale next week is going to deal with those gripes, but for now, I guess we should review episode 7 of season 9, entitled Stradivarius. I meant to have this video up for you guys sooner, but because of the Thanksgiving week, I was in a bit of a travel mode, so I have to do this in not only the basement location, but also on short notice. So, or not short notice, but you know what I mean. Delayed it as much as I could. Brought my equipment so I could actually do this vlog. So, fortunate though that I could review it, of course. Fortunate that I'm still obviously doing all of this Walking Dead stuff, because I thought that after Rick's departure that I really wouldn't be touching much of The Walking Dead at all. And here I am, still doing Walking Dead stuff. It's keeping me interested. That episode 6 with Judith in the driver's seat and the scenes with Negan. You got the creepiness with the Whisperers after. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and I think Angela Kang is still doing a good job. This episode, Stradivarius, the name of this episode, episode 7, it was a bit slower. Fun fact, it was actually directed by Michael Cutlitz, who obviously is Abraham Ford, who got his head bashed in by Negan. He makes a return, which is cool that he's still trying to stay connected to the Walking Dead universe. I guess he had brought this up to Scott Gimple that he was possibly pursuing other avenues of the film industry. So that's cool, though, because this episode, obviously, there was some focus on Rose, and especially that intro. Oh, my God. I mean, you want to talk about creepy intros? You got Rosita running through the forest, and you got all these jump cuts and pans and swivels of the camera. Meanwhile, you hear, it's either Rosita thinking about it, or there's actually Whisperers chasing her. But you don't see them. You don't see any walkers. She's just running away. She collapses from dehydration, but it's just, it reminded me of like a horror film. Like I'm in like a thriller here, watching this girl try to get to safety. Eugene's not with her. We find out that Eugene is in some barn somewhere. I don't know why. Like, why did the whole time she's dragging Eugene along, saying we're gonna make it, you know, you're not gonna die, like we're gonna survive together. And then she just ends up leaving him behind, maybe because he insisted, maybe because he was injured and just couldn't go on moving, whatever. She seemed pretty certain that that barn was going to keep him safe, so that's what the next episode is going to be about, but I don't want to skip to that just yet. So, some other things. We find out that because of the super divided nature of the communities, Jesus and Aaron have been meeting in secret. Since they're both gay, I guess there might be other reasons why they might be meeting. Just saying. Aaron's getting a little bit of, he tackles did anyone get thrown off by that when Aaron just tackles Jesus right off his horse? I was like, the heck's going on here? I was like, wow, like, I mean, with one arm, I mean, she's pulling it off, so I guess that's one perk of meeting in secrecy. But it's weird. Again, I said this in the previous episode, that Rick had created such a network. I mean, think about the time jump from season 8 to 9, that year and a half time jump when Rick was in control. All of the communities, like the Sanctuary was trying to grow food. There was a trade network. You had those signs. Remember the signs? Remember that camp when you had Toledo? I don't even know what the fuck Toledo was. But you had all the signs with like the directions of the different communities. And this was back when Rick was really trying to get the Saviors on board with everything. And it really seems like ever since Rick's leadership, like the vacuum of Rick's leadership created an atmosphere in which none of the communities want anything to do with each other. Now, I could understand maybe the Saviors not wanting anything to do with the communities because they were on the harsh end of the stick in terms of the war. Kind of like the Civil War, if we're thinking like American history, how the Confederacy lost the war, so they had to They got the short end of the stick, obviously. They had to suffer the consequences. They were at the mercy of their victors. So, very much the same here. But the Hilltop Kingdom in Alexandria united their forces, and Oceanside at the end, united their forces to take down a group that was oppressing them. And now, within a 6-year time period, they're just not trading and interacting with each other, even though that would probably be the smart thing to do, considering this is a world where you constantly need food, supplies. The old world of technology is breaking down. You've got more of like a Western going on here. That, I don't know, man. That kind of confuses me. That I don't know. It just confuses me that, like, especially like Michonne, like, she knew what Rick's vision was, where all these communities were linked together, civilization was up and booming. It was Carl's vision, very much so. And in the comic books, this is The Walking Dead. Like, that's it. Like, once they defeat the Saviors, all these communities are trading and interacting with each other. And it's really weird that they're not doing that. And it seems like, my prediction, and I don't want to go too far here, but my prediction is that the Whisperer conflict is going to bring everyone together. They're going to have to almost like say, hey, just like we did with the Saviors, we're going to have to take down this new group of savage monsters, and basically it'll make everyone realize that living independently is really no way to live at all. Kind of like, the United States living in an isolationist mindset. That's no way to live. We live in a global planet. So I guess if you want to align it to modern philosophy, modern principles, that would be the best example. But it just kind of threw me for a loop. It was just weird. Like, that I'm realizing this. I'm like, oh, because Michonne didn't even know Maggie left. Like, Sadiq has to explain in this episode that Maggie went with Georgie. She's been sending letters to Jesus, who is by default the leader. He doesn't really want to. Tara's like kind of kicking him in the butt. Like, I guess Tara now lives at the Hilltop. Like, it just seems like kind of random. Like, Tara lives at Hilltop. Obviously, Enid was living at the Hilltop for a majority, taking care of Maggie. That makes sense. But I don't know. Like, Tara got to Alexandria before Hilltop. Like, who decided where they went? Like, and with some people it makes sense. Like, Carol was saved by the kingdom. She's married to Ezekiel, so it makes sense that she would be living at the kingdom. And she's now taken Henry in as her son. But I don't know, maybe this stuff will be explained. The other thing that needs to be explained is the X. We saw it on Michonne's back previous episode, and now Daryl, who we see in this episode pretty prominently, has the X on his lower back as well. I don't know if this is some mark of, like, symbolism that they did, like, to kind of symbolize, like, like the loss of Rick or something in Rick's honor. I don't know if something happened in the 6 years that will explain that. It seems like they're going to eventually. I don't know how it's going to, because now you got this new Whisperer conflict, and I don't know how you're going to try to explain the two of them at the same time. I guess, we're just going to have to trust in Angela Kang's storytelling. But, hey, Daryl has a dog. It's a cute dog. It's good. Adds some diversity to the show. Pretty tense scene when the dog gets snared in a trap. But of course, they're not going to kill the dog in the first episode that they introduce it in. So I was never really worried when I saw that scene. I was like, Daryl's going to save the dog. So, and then we got Henry. Henry being stubborn. Tries to help Daryl. Daryl's like, nah. We see that Daryl, I guess, has just really been a lone wolf, and that's really always how he's operated, but I guess Rick's disappearance has really affected him. And it's funny, because they bring up Rick in this episode indirectly, because Daryl's like, I never found a body, so I'm not really going to conclude that he's dead until I find a body. So, which is true, because, like, if they had a Walker Rick, or they had a body to bury, because think about, in every other circumstance, a loved one that they've lost, they usually see them die, or they have to bury their remains. Like the remains of Glenn and Abraham, they're buried at the Hilltop. I'm trying to think. Carl obviously commits suicide. His remains are in Alexandria. So Rick, like, if they were to make a gravestone, they don't have a corpse. They don't know what happened to him. So that's very realistic for Daryl to probably hold on to that lingering hope that Rick's still alive, which he is, which, again, that's a topic I've discussed a lot. If Rick will ever regroup with Daryl, regroup with Michonne, with Judith, his new son RJ, all these characters that he left behind, will he ever see them again? Not sure. We're just going to have to wait and see. I did a whole video about that a week ago, so if you want to go see that, you can go check that out on my page. But yeah, so the only other big part of the episode, which was probably the majority of it, was spent on the new group. Magna, Yumiko, I don't even remember his name. The musician, I guess Luke or whatever. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, I've been kind of bored with their characters. Like, I did like the musician's parallel about, well, he was giving a metaphor and trying to explain how humans are humans because of their creativity and their artistic craving or cravings. And so that sets them apart from the Neanderthals back thousands of years ago. And, you can say that the walkers are now the Neanderthals. And this is coming up in wake of a very different type of philosophy from the Whisperers that we're going to learn about in these coming episodes of season 9. So the timing of this speech about art and the transformation of society and bringing civilization to humans is pertinent. It's probably going to change Michonne's mind at some point about how the communities interact, but she was just being so stubborn in this episode. And again, it gives you the impression that something happened, whether it was Rick leaving, disappearing, or if it was something else that happened in that 6 years that really made Michonne completely untrusting of anybody that they run across, and made Daryl become a lone wolf for the end of days. Like, we need an explanation of that, and I hope it's not a cop-out. I hope it's not something that's just glazed over. But yeah, I mean, the new characters, they're there. They're cool. I mean, we know some information. I mean, they had to put down a member of their group that got turned into a walker. I mean, we didn't even know who this person was, so it was just kind of like a shrug of the shoulders. So, they got cool weaponry, slingshot, bow and arrow. I mean, some stuff we've seen before. So, it was just, again, this whole episode really for me was just a shrug of the shoulders. We get to see the hilltop with its giant expansion of crops, and it's booming, it's doing well. Jesus doesn't really look like he wants to be leader. Tara could probably be the fucking leader at this point. I mean, she's got more of the gusto and the iron fist to, that woman, that feminism, that power, man. You lay down the law. So, yeah, there is that. By the end of the episode, things spike because Daryl kind of gets brought back into the fold of things. I mean, when was the last time he was even at the hilltop? I mean, he goes to the hilltop at the end of this episode, hears about Rosita and Eugene running into some trouble, and then Daryl, Aaron, and Jesus, they all volunteer to go find Eugene. So they're going to go find him. Obviously, from the previews, it looks like they do find him. And the next episode looks really creepy with the mist and all that stuff. This is going to be a huge, huge introduction for the Whisperers. Probably, I don't know if it's going to be a full reveal, like if we're going to have Alpha or somebody like pull off a mask or something. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, or if we're going to see maybe, something with Lydia or something else. I don't really know where this episode's headed. I don't know the direction. I've seen some pictures of Henry with like teenagers and stuff. We don't even know. So weird. We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see where things go, what happens. So yeah, I hope that this Whisperers storyline keeps things fresh, because I'm trying to separate in my mind, because just the 6-year time jump is just so big, man. Like, so many things can happen in 6 years. Like, that's longer than they've been living and surviving in the apocalypse. Like, think about it. Like, The Walking Dead seasons 1 through 8, let's say like a year and a half, 2 years go by max of the apocalypse. That's a third. That's a third of this time jump that has transpired. And I know they did it so that a lot of time goes by, so that you get an older version of Judith, which I do like and I was advocating for. But there are just problems because you get characters that don't look like they've aged 6 years. You know, Enid probably, because you don't want to replace every actor. It becomes burdensome. But it's hard for me to believe that, no other group, like, the Whisperers are surviving for like 8 years in this apocalypse with this savage mindset. Like, Negan's in jail for 6 years. There's obviously the Rick thing with the helicopter. He never comes back to Alexandria in 6 years. Something keeps him from doing that. What is that thing? We don't know. So I don't know. Just a lot of things come up when you have a 6-year time jump, because it also kind of it sweeps under the rug the whole concept of surviving, because every day is a difficult day to survive, but you're basically saying, well, because they live in these well-off communities, Hilltop, Alexandria, Kingdom, because they live in these stable communities with stable groups of people, any human threat has been dealt with, specifically the saviors. Walkers are manageable, so you'd think that people would just live normal lives for 6 years. It's just crazy to think about, because I don't know. I mean, and again, maybe we'll get some flashbacks to in between those 6 years and show pertinent events and pertinent moments of what is coming up. But we shall see. We shall see, as I yawn epically. I think I'll give this episode a solid 8. Michael Cudlitz did some interesting directing things. I really liked the introduction with that creepy scene with Rosita. I hated the fact that I was left off on a cliffhanger with the Whisperers in episode 6, and it was never really resolved in episode 7. Like, they went to Hilltop, dealt with Magnus Group, caught up with Daryl, like Carol, Henry, and Daryl. Like, they talked to Daryl and check in with him, how he's doing. Like, they completely, like, Eugene's not even in the episode. Like, they completely, like, said, oh, we're gonna save that plot, and they only addressed it briefly. They addressed that they're going to get a search party together, and that's when I started getting excited. I was like, oh, they're getting a search party together. Daryl's jumping back into the action and not being a lone wanderer, and now he's actually, ready to kind of take the reins here. That's interesting. And because it reminds me of the Gimple days, where you would have episodes that would be filler, episodes that would it would give you plot details, but it would just drag on and on and on and on and on. And the reason I'm giving this episode is an 8 is because I like some of the directing choices, but at the same time, I just felt like it dragged on a little bit too much, and there was just maybe a little bit too much emphasis on these new characters, and I think that they would have done better interacting with a larger group of characters we already know. The only two characters they really interact with are Sadiq and Michonne. That's it. And Michonne has completely closed herself down to really interacting with anyone. I mean, she chops a guy's violin in half, for crying out loud. So she's she's really the whole thing with Rick has just warped her mindset, and now she's back to being closed off, only trusting her family and people she's known, not even wanting to venture outside Alexandria, literally just living there. So it's just weird. It's weird, man. I hope the show clears up some of this stuff. I hope by this end of season 9 we can look back and say, oh, I see why they did this, this, and this. But yeah, I mean, Michael Cudlitz, not a bad episode for him to direct. Obviously, there's some rumors that in season 10, Andrew Lincoln, of all freaking people, might be directing an episode, which would just be, what a slap in the face that would be. Like, he's directly behind the camera while, all these scenes are going on that he should be in. Oh, I guess we'll just have to wait for the movie. I don't know. We got to see what the master plan is for The Walking Dead, because you got these movies, you got the show. I still think that they're going to join up at some point towards the very end. That was that video I made last week with my big prediction about that. Again, go to that video, comment, let me know what you think. You could do so in this video too. But I just think it's good at this point to know what the blueprint is, and that's why I'm glad that they kind of showed us more of their blueprint with these movies that are going to be released, and where the show's going, and I hope that the mystery and the intrigue of the Whisperers keeps me around, because I want I want a group of characters that I can care about. If it's going to be the younger characters growing up and being the older characters, so be it. But it was always Rick, and I guess it's just because of familiarity, because he was with me since the first freaking episode. So for this show not to have Rick is just it still feels weird, but whenever I think about him, I'm like, okay, he's off somewhere doing great things somewhere else. We don't know what those things are. We don't know why they are. Why he's not fucking. Why doesn't he just lead a legion of helicopters back to Alexandria? Like, hey guys, I survived. Like, why doesn't he do that? I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Patriots vlog. Haven't gotten around to the Titans vlog because that game was such a disaster. Maybe tomorrow. They were on their bye week anyway, so there was no game to report. They are facing the Jets later this week, so that's going to be an easy victory. So later this week, I'll have the Titans Patriots vlog up, and then this Sunday another review of the midseason finale, which will be fun. People are asking me to do a reaction to it. I mean, I was pretty definitive about not doing reactions anymore. Maybe I'll consider it in the future, but for now, no is my answer. So, alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving, and all the best. Peace out.